To deal successfully with these and dozens of other conditions, all of us must think every day not just how to solve problems that are already manifest, but how to increase the United States' leverage and influence in the future. And maintaining the core strength of United States foreign policy is painstaking work, frequently underappreciated. Those of you who are current or former diplomats have a special understanding of how difficult it is to conduct business if the United States allows diplomatic tools to fall into disrepair. Our military strength is only a part of our national power, which must also be measured in alliances, trading partners, exchange programs, secure energy and food supplies, international agreements, global respect, and numerous other indices. These core elements of foreign policy cannot be strengthened by a reactive, crisis-driven approach in which we shorten our time horizons and concentrate our resources on a few rogue regimes. They require daily attention from our government, and they must be backed by clear policy guidelines that assigns them a high priority, that recognizes and that is recognized by our friends and by our enemies alike. In this context, the impacts of an exchange program, a teacher training operation, or a media freedom project are not always apparent in short-term geopolitical events, but they can reverberate over the course of decades if we maintain a steady focus. The post-Rose Revolution government in Georgia has been a notable example of the influence of United States exchange programs. President Saakashvili himself received his law degree from Columbia University, where he studied under a Muskie Fellowship program, which is now administered by IREX. In fact, when I visited Georgia in 2004, I found that almost every member of his cabinet had attended an American college or university during academic careers. And I would add parenthetically that I had entertained 5 of these gentlemen at lunch in the Senate dining room 10 years before, which they reminded me. The result was that the leadership of an important country had a personal understanding of the core elements of American society and governance. Perhaps more importantly, they had an understanding and appreciation of Americans themselves. In the United States, we have critiqued and even lamented some aspects of our public diplomacy since the end of the Cold War. Americans are especially troubled by examples of virulent anti-American hatred in the Islamic world, and they're frustrated by public opinion polls in allied countries that seem increasingly ready to question American motives and to blame American actions for a host of problems. In an era when allied cooperation is so essential, we cannot afford to shrug off negative public opinion overseas as irrelevant. The governments of most nations respond to public opinion, whether it is demonstrated in the voting booth or in the streets. But as we discuss public diplomacy, we must resist the temptation to equate it with public relations tactics. Successful public diplomacy is not about manipulating people into liking us. Rather, it's about clearly and honestly explaining the views of the United States, displaying the humanity and generosity of our people, underscoring issues of commonality, and expanding opportunities for interaction between Americans and foreign peoples. Even the most enlightened public diplomacy will not succeed overnight. Success will require resources, hard work, and constancy over a period of decades that focuses on supporting democratic institutions and a free press in the Islamic world and elsewhere. And it will also require the United States to build lasting relationships overseas and advance our visions of fairness and opportunity. As Senator William Fulbright explained in a 1945 United States Senate speech, just before the end of the war in Europe. And I quote Senator Fulbright, "Peace does not consist merely of a solemn declaration or a well-drafted constitution. The making of peace is a continuing process that must go on from day to day, from year to year, so long as our civilization shall last." End of quote. The coming age will require patient and selfless individuals to step forward and to go to work every day for their country and for the concepts of freedom and democracy. I applaud tonight especially your contributions to these ideals, and I wish you many decades of achievement and opportunities to work with you. Thank you very much.